Hey everybody, let's continue where we were at. So we just got done talking about introduction to ecology. Well, let's go to the next part. Let's talk about the humans in the biosphere. So here's your ICANN statement to identify what's going on. All right, human population and growth. 1800s, due to advances in machines and factories, there was an increase in quality and quantity of life, increased birth rate and decreased death rate. Now let's make sense of this. Well, in the 1800s, they started finding different things where um, even medical wise. So when women would give birth, instead of some of the babies and the moms dying, they would actually invented enough stuff to keep the babies alive as well as the mothers. As well as we invented machines that, hey, we have life support machines. We have a lot of different machines, right? So that kind of decreases the death rate and increases the quality and quantity of life. Now, still in the 1900s is where we got most of our medical advances. So our medicines now and technology gave us an increase again in birth rate and decrease in death rate. So since the 1800s, we've been going here, but since we got the medicine and stuff in the 1900s, we gradually went up. Human population is growing than an environment, right? So therefore, humans are causing great damage to the environment. Because what are we doing? We keep cutting down all these trees, making more apartments and more houses and more apartments and more houses. We're gonna go to a place though where there's not gonna be no trees. There's not gonna be nothing to help us save the environment. It's not that all these people need houses, because think about how many houses are now foreclosed and no one stays there. We have a lot of industry processes that's polluting the air, water, and soil. And humans are not doing any better because they're making more waste. We keep coming up with stuff that cannot be reused. Like, I remember back in the day we had these metal cars. The cars was metal that you could get a dent, get the dent out, but you are able to restore the cars. Now we get cars made out of fiberglass. As soon as you wreck it, it looks like you done crushed up a can soda. So we make a big production of waste. Suburban growth, like we keep making stuff to make something so urbanized. So we taking the suburban area and just knocking down all of the natural habitats as well as the farmlands just to create something that's more satisfiable for us. But the people buying $20 million houses, it's only you and one kid, and you got 30 bedrooms. Come on, let's make sense of that. So renewable versus non-renewable. So renewable obviously can be regenerated if they are alive and replenished by biochemical cycles if they are non-limit. So basically fresh water and trees. So it can happen. It can come back. But you know how long it takes for a tree? For a tree to get to a mature state, it could take up to 150 years. Obviously, if you died and someone planted a tree in your death, you got to think 150 years will pass until that tree is usable. If it sustains the weather, if it sustains destruction or deforestation. Non-renewable resources cannot be replenished by natural processes such as fossil fuels, coal, oil, natural gas. So some of that, once it's gone, hey, it's gone. We can't just say hey, it's going to just come back. So we have human activities that can affect the quality and supply of renewable resources. So we do sustainable development, which is that a way to provide humans their needs while maintaining a healthy ecosystem without depleting them. So everything we spray, um, what is it, insecticide on top of plants, right? That immediately, if a bug gets on it, they die. Well, what's happening to our body? Let's think about it. If it kills them immediately, but their body is so small, after we keep eating these plants, regardless if they say it's organic, if they put pesticides on it, let's be honest, it's slowly killing us. The United States is the highest country that has cancer. We use a lot of stuff. We put everything. But why can't we just use natural insects to control the insect pests that eat the crops? That means that it decreases the amount of pesticides sprayed on crops that kills not only the crop but can kill us too later on. Land. So with this Plant removes roots, and it causes a rate of erosion. But the solution is to leave the stems in the ground from the last crop to help hold the soil. So you want to basically just let it kind of stay there, and you just want to cut the top layer down. And this, you don't want to have to till it to make it go like this. That means you're taking a lot from the bottom. No, if you just add it to what's something that's already there, it will grow better and bigger. Deforestation. Now, if you actually go down Rayford Road, you will see this. Loss of trees. They building all the bridges and stuff. I mean, we ain't getting those trees back. We got animals just running around. Air. We got pollutants such as smog produced by car exhaust and industrial emissions. We have acid rain that forms when chemicals mix with the water vapor. Solutions. Make cars with fewer emissions, which we have. We got those Go Green and Eco cars. Biodiversity. So bio is life, and diversity is obviously the word diversity, so a mixture or variety. So the sum of the total of the variety of organisms in the biosphere. So threats. Threats to the biodiversity include, but not limited to, like overhunting. So we're hunting extinct species and an endangered species. Like once we kill them, they can't come back. Habitats, like we keep destroying their houses, and then we break up their houses, and then we have pollution, we have deforestation, and then introduce us to invasive species, and those are again plants and animals that human transport. Like there, we have one, and ours is the kudzu. Pollution, the biomagnification or bioaccumulation, the increase in concentration of toxin chemicals up the food chain. So if the substance accumulates higher up the organism in the food chain as well. So if this water is polluted, that means the algae can't eat it, fish can't eat it, everything dies from up there. So what happens is once one area is damaged, it damaged everybody else too. For you to get a better understanding, definitely read on Rachel Carson. She had lead awareness about pesticides, and she wrote a book called Silent Spring, which tells us about the pesticides on birds and how it magnifies and accumulates in the environment. But again, so you know this is our little energy pyramid, and you know we get 10% through everything that's 8. But again, if water is polluted, that means everything else is going to be bad. So the greenhouse effect, human activity is causing an increase in the environmental greenhouse. Um, the sun's heat to be trapped, global temperatures to rise, global climate changes. The biggest thing is the CFCs, the chlorofluorocarbons, and that's burning fossil fuel. Right here. Burning the fossil fuel is giving this greenhouse effect. And what's happening is it's trapping more heat and raises the Earth's temperature. So that's why, like in the wintertime, we be having 90-degree winters sometimes in North Carolina. So ozone, which is O3, protects the Earth from UV rays. It's basically a natural sunscreen. Well, if we deplete this ozone, that is caused by the CFCs, the chlorofluorocarbons. And once we do that, we're losing part of our protection. Global warming. So an increase in the temperature, the average temperature of the biosphere. And the only reason why it's evidence is that polar ice is melting, as you see. Glaciers are melting that have not melted before. I mean, but I'm like this too. Um, Anything that's frozen will eventually unthaw somehow, some way. But however, if we have too much at one time, it can cause flooding. The discussion is the trend warming that keeps happening in Earth's history because of the volcano eruptions as well as the greenhouse gases by human activities. Some say maybe it's just burning the fossil fuels. Maybe it's everything. We can't stop the Earth from just having a volcano. I mean, Technically, if it's the ground shakes, and we over here near Fort Bragg, and they be booming all the time. So imagine all over the world, and that all the military are just doing that. So contributions of the human population: um, conservation, wise management of natural resources, including preserving habitats and organisms. Stewardship is responsible for planning and management of resources. So again, conservation is saying, hey, let's see what we can conserve. All right. Stewardship is saying, how can I help? Species preservation, pollution control. So these are the contributions that we can have. Predicted by 2050, they think that the temperature will rise at least to 1 or 2 degrees Celsius. You got to think about that's a big jump for us. We're talking about possibly like 10 to 15, 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. So just a review back. The process that occurs in plants and animals as part of the carbon cycle is respiration, because obviously plants go through respiration and photosynthesis, but we can only go through respiration. And the question said plants and animals. Series of steps in which organisms transfer energy by eating and being eaten. The food chain. Each step in the transfer of energy and matter within a food web is called a trophic level. At each trophic level, again, we get 10%.